What's up, guys? Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the latest news from 704. They just announced that they're not going to release a 2020 DLC update and that they're going to just be focused on the next game. Also, they're going to be answering questions, I believe, on Thursday on Reddit. I'm not on Reddit, so you guys are going to have to get in there and ask questions. So hopefully they can give us details about the game then. So I'm just going to talk about my thoughts on that. Also, I do know a little bit of information when it comes to who's actually developing the game. I know a lot of people have been asking that question since Monster Games is gone. So as far as I know, and I did get in touch with Andy at 704 at Motorsport Games, and he wasn't really able to get into detail. He told me I can't reveal anything yet, but they are going to be developing the game in-house. Okay, so 704 is actually going to develop the game themselves. He did say that they already had a development arm, he called. That could be a couple of guys. It could be a bigger group. I don't know how big a group of people, but that they already had somewhat of a development team in place last year, and they worked closely with NASCAR Heat 4 on that. They did have a hand in that. So even though Monster Games did the bulk of the work, these guys did work in tandem with those guys side by side. So I'm going to tell you my thoughts on that, but hopefully people are clear on that. That a lot of people are saying, "Oh, I hope so and so steps in and develops the game," or "Who are they going to get?" It's going to be in house. Okay, so here's the deal. I like that. I think that if the publisher and the developer is this, if the publisher is also the developer, and I mean, I'm not 100% sure how all of this stuff works, but 704 is going to be working in the game. It's going to be in house. I think it's a positive. I think they're going to have a little more control over the product, and that in combination with, when I spoke to Steve Hood, the president, he told me that Motorsport Games and the people behind it, they are making a bigger investment in this series. So they're putting money into this thing. They're hiring people. He did talk about those things, even in the article that I talked about, that they were looking to hire, up to at least maybe I think it was 75 to 100 more people, or in total, by the end of the year. We know that there's a lot of moving parts right now. They've made a lot of changes. Some people are gone. They're hiring new people, so they're going undergoing a restructuring of sorts. So I don't know too much more than that, but the game is going to be developed in house by 704, and they did already have what Andy told me was a development arm. So I take that to be a group of guys that were also developers, and that they worked. They had a hand in NASCAR Heat 4. So again, this is just speculation on my part, but I like that because there's going to be some continuity there. It's not like Monster Games is gone and a whole bunch of new people are walking in the door and they don't know what they're working on, or they're taking over something they had nothing to do with. This is good because you're going to have people there who are already familiar with the NASCAR Heat 4, the build, the code, all that stuff. I'm not an expert on that side of things, but it sounds good to me. That's the way I would go about it. And I am actually pleasantly surprised that they already did have some people, at least some people, already involved with the development of NASCAR Heat 4. So I think passing the baton along and hiring more people, it should help, make the transition smoother. And hopefully you don't see like a jarring difference, uh, because I am pleasantly surprised with how much improvement they have been able to make every year, and I want to see that continue. I don't want to see a break in that. So that's what I know. They're gonna develop the game in-house. So hopefully that clears some things up for you guys. I don't have more details than that. Um, and they said they're gonna answer questions on, I think, Thursday. So my main thing is I just want to know what their plans are for the next game in terms of career mode, all the things I've always talked about, presentation, all these things, giving this game a deeper, more immersive career mode, and even online. Are we going to be able to maybe have a template of some kind where you can actually uh, organize and run a league, fully supported with stats and everything, and people can sign up and you can set up the schedule, all kinds of stuff. So, just so you guys don't think that I don't care at all about online, there are things that can be done. So, I know you guys are going to ask the right questions. So, even though I'm not on Reddit or anything, I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for that stuff. And the other thing is that they're dropping the 2020 DLC update. And I'm just telling you, if I was the person making these decisions, I totally sign off on that. I would have made the same decision. And if you've been following me, you know that every year I bring up the same thing where these guys focus on DLC, paint schemes, these roster updates and stuff that don't add anything to the game, in my opinion. It doesn't really make the game better. It's nothing. And it's valuable time and resources that should be spent on the next game and continuing to push the series forward. Uh, you know, Developing these games on a yearly basis. I've said this before. It's not a lot of time. And 704 confirmed. All right, I'm going back now to late last year. That they came out and said, usually once we release the game, we work on patches, DLC, stuff like that, and then later down the line we start the next game. And that's always bothered me because I'm like, you there's not a big development cycle in these games. Their resources are limited. So the more time and resources spent on DLC that to me doesn't add anything to this game. So there are people that are already upset. Um, and the timing of the announcement, I get it. It's not the best timing. It's just really abrupt. But keep in mind, there's so many changes going on in the company and restructuring, and I really like hearing that they're focused on the next game. And I don't want to hear about DLC, and I just don't care about it. And I'm only speaking for myself. I know some of you guys are like, well, I do care about it. I want it, blah blah blah. I'm just asking you guys to ask yourself, really, would you rather they spend more time, more resources for updates? I mean, really, a roster update, maybe some paint scheme, whatever. Is it really going to add anything to NASCAR Heat 4 and make it a better game overall? It's not. NASCAR Heat 4 is already a pretty solid game, in my opinion, for what it is. I'm fine with it. It'll hold me over till the next game. Focus all of your energy on the next game so that they can do the best they can with that. So I like that they're not doing this DLC. They're just moving forward, and you got to make these decisions, right? You can't please everyone, and you can't have too many fires, burning at the same time. Um, so they're gonna be making the game in house, as far as I know. They didn't really give me more information. They couldn't, but these questions are going to be answered, Thursday. But that's, from what I understand, that's the deal. They already did have a development arm involved in NASCAR Heat 4. So I'm assuming that means they had a group of guys that were working in tandem with Monster Games. So Monster Games is gone, but there are already people in house who did have some hand in it in NASCAR Heat 4, and they're familiar with the build. That's all good stuff, really. I'm looking at it from a positive view, and I think the decisions being made right now, although it's disappointing to some people, I these are the decisions I would have made myself. I would have said, you know what, forget this DLC stuff. Let's focus all our energy on the next game. They don't have a lot of time to work on this, so I think it's the right thing. And only time is going to tell how this is going to work out. But I want them to focus on the important stuff, the things I've been talking about every year. Uh, and I do think that up to this point, 704 has spent too much time and resources on DLC. These None of this DLC has really added anything significant to this series. It just doesn't. Uh, it is a way for them to make a few extra bucks along the way. I get it. But you know what? If these guys can push this game to the next level and it feels like a really fully fleshed out product with a fully fleshed out career mode, they can charge 60 bucks right off the bat. And uh, which we haven't seen in a NASCAR game in a long time. And they'll make extra money that way because it's a better product and they can charge full price. And yeah, I'm sure that down the line they are going to still focus on something on DLC down the line. But right now, it's vital that they focus on this next game, right? Uh, so I like the decision they're making. I think this is the right thing to do. Hopefully they are adding the right personnel and getting all of this together. And I hate hearing every year how these guys are just talking DLC, DLC, and releasing they've released already like a million paint schemes. And I'm telling you now, it hasn't added much at all to the game. You hardly notice these paint schemes unless you actually pick one to drive yourself. When you're driving in a field of cars, you're still seeing mostly the same paint schemes. To me, it's such a waste of resources and time that should go to the main part of the game and the next game and making sure they got a leg up on that. So that's really all I know right now. I guess these questions should be answered on Thursday. I wouldn't get my hopes up in finding out every little detail about what they're working on the next game. I think that there are some things they're going to be like, well, we can't tell you about this yet. So don't be surprised about that. And I know people are going to be like, oh, I want to know this, I want to know that. But I'm just concerned, I want to hear certain things like about career mode and where they're pushing this. And one last thing before I go, I do want to remind people that uh, we're talking about. I do believe Andy was also involved at Codemasters, but the president, Steve Hood, came from Codemasters, and I do think that's important to note because uh, there's a pedigree there, and there is a line of success that they're coming from. They already kind of know what works, and they know that most of us really look up to Codemasters and what they're doing with the Formula One series. And the hope for me is at least that they bring some of what we see in the Formula One series to these NASCAR games. And maybe they can answer some of these questions on Thursday. So those are my thoughts on it. I I'm glad they're just not focusing on this 2020 DLC stuff. It's I promise you, it wasn't going to add anything significant to the game. It's really a lot of fluff that is not noticeable, and really focus on the next game. I don't think people realize how little development time there is for these games, especially these yearly releases. So the more they can push and focus there, the better. And you know, hopefully we can find out some really exciting things for me to talk about Thursday. So those are my thoughts. I look forward to your comments.